Yeah, fine, I already. Called the meeting, the special meeting of the Champaign Park Board, the order. Yeah.
What you trying to do?
First thing we have is public comment. Public comments are important to the board, however, it is the board's policy not to take action on items until time has been taken to gather and evaluate information as well as discuss available options. The absence of immediate response does not indicate a lack of interest in the matter. During the committee input portion of the agenda, the board may typically ask residents to provide input before non-residents. The purpose of the public participation is to allow the public to address and inform the board. Please remember that the board has limited time to hear from the citizens while also efficiently conducting park district business. After an individual has spoken, that individual may not address the same issue again. Any limitation about addressing the board may be waived by it. Planned agenda item presentations may, within the board's discretion, exceed certain time limits. Public comments are limited to not more than 3 minutes. So you have some folks who are looking to give comments tonight. First up, Marion Harrington Jr.
What do you say? No, I heard it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Good evening. My name is Marion Harrington. Live at 1204 Christmas Drive, right in the neighborhood. The lady here has wrote a letter that I'd like to read for you and then make a comment on it if I may. It's about the fence that's being put up in Douglas Park. And she states, putting up a fence is not a solution to the problem. It's a reaction to the problem, and not a very good one at that. Let's brainstorm and see what we can do better to be a part of the solution, not how we can further divide the community. What happened to summer job programs for the youth? Why not bring it back? What about police athletic league? What is the dysfunction in Champaign? This can go a long way in improving community relations. Put a police substation in Douglas Center. Engage with the community daily, not just in a crisis situation. Be proactive. Make Douglas Center an active community center again. It can be done with people in leadership who share our cultural experiences and have the community in their best interest at heart. Our community is facing multiple challenges. Now is not the time to reduce services offered in the undeserved areas, but time to increase activities, programs at Douglas Park and Douglas Community Center. My thing is, you put up a fence to keep things in or keep things out. It's a public park. What do you need a fence up for? Well, we kind of think it's directed towards us. And when I say us, the Atomic Dog Motorcycle Club has been coming to CU Day for over 30 years, providing food and refreshments for the community for free. We park our motorcycles on the grass, and we have been for over 30 years, just the one day. So people know where we're at. We put up our banner and everything. And I believe, and maybe I'm wrong, but that fence is put up to keep us out, to keep us off the grass. But police, firemen, they can do what they want on the grass. We see them. But we can't be on it for one day to give back to our community. Like I said before, a fence is to keep things in or out. And we don't need a fence in a public park. It's a public park. Why you got a fence up in any other park? Are you putting fences up in any other park? I don't think so. But you want to come over to the predominantly black neighborhood and put up a fence. That's already got our neighborhood in an uproar. Because when we see the fence posts, why? Why? It's a park that doesn't want to get used. You know why? Because there's too much politics involved in a public park. Our kids can't even play on the baseball diamond because they have to have permission to play. It's a park. It's a park. But there's too much politics involved in this park. Well, people ain't going to go to it. Mm-hmm. And it's a shame. And I got a question myself. I see all you board members. How many of you live in Champaign?
We
Can I
all
get
live
your
in
hand?
Champaign, we all live in
It's
We
Champaign.
all live in Champaign, well,
We
that's
have
good.
to. It's a requirement.
It's a requirement, that's great, that's great. But how many of you live over here? None of it. But you sitting around making decisions for predominantly black party. Why are there any blacks up there? Huh? How come there's no blacks on the board? Maybe you might get some understanding on how things work if you had some blacks sitting up there. Somebody who can relate to us, to relate to y'all. But there isn't. That's why we have some problems. You guys trying to make decisions for black community. You need some blacks up there to help you make decisions for blacks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up. Real quick reminder, just if everybody has their cell phones, noise turned off. Makes things go smoother. Next up, John Towns.
How's everybody doing?
Good.
I live at 401 East Columbia, right on the corner of 4th and Columbia. I'm not trying to turn this into a black and white thing. It's just a Q&A thing for me. As far as, I don't know if you guys are putting the fence, I just seen fence posts. Is that what's planned on? Is that what's the plan is, putting up a fence? Is that the plan, putting up a fence? Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he's coming up here saying, you guys, I just want to ask, I don't, it could be a temporary fence for Champaign and Band-Aid, but I'm just asking, is that a permanent thing that you guys are putting up a fence because of the posts there in the ground?
It was fencing for a special event that took place at the end of June.
Yes,
There's another one scheduled in 3 weeks or at the end of July.
right,
So the time in between the one in June and this upcoming one, we kept the posts in, took the rope down. The point of the fencing is to restrict unauthorized vehicles from the park during the special event.
Mhm.
We do that for all of our large scale special events, including Champaign Urbana Days, including the Iliac Festival, including Flannel Fest.
right. But the question is, there's not going to be a
It's not a permanent fence.
permanent fence here.
No,
That's the question I'm
correct.
asking.
There's not.
So it's just,
In order to put the posts in, we had to do utility locates.
right,
So to save some resources of not having to relocate, do the utility locate again, in less than 3 weeks for the next special event.
right. So they're just.
We kept the post.
Yeah,
It's temporary.
that's all.
That's it.
Thank you. Next up, we have Karen Roberson from Savoy.
Oops. Good evening. I'd like to speak a little bit about curbing some of the violence in the Champaign-Urbana community. Violence is a serious problem that affects individuals, families, schools, and communities. And in response to all the recent violence in the Champaign community, you might say to yourself, oh, what a shame. They need to do something about all those shootings. Well, I'm here to say shame on the Champaign Park District because it has been one of the contributing factors to the problem. You might ask the question, well, how is that? We do this and we do that. But let's just talk about what you do in the underserved areas of Champaign-Urbana. And here are 3 examples. Number 1, Douglas Community Center is closed to the public from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. daily. Doors are locked, no open gym, no organized programs for young people except for the summer camp, which there's a fee for that of $215 per child for 1 week. Number 2, removing staff from the center and putting everything online so that households with no internet have no access to program guide information or registration. Your website is very difficult to navigate. Even if they had access, they may still not be very computer literate. Number three, offering programs that are too expensive for many residents of the underserved North End community. In Champaign-Urbana, 27.5% of the population lives below the poverty level. That's more than double the US rate of 12%. Although Champaign-Urbana is often viewed as an affluent community, more than 1/4 of its residents are living in poverty. We cannot ignore this reality when adopting modern technologies as the only way to conduct business. Indulge me just for a few minutes and let's take a walk down memory lane. This is back to the 60s and 70s. Some of you weren't even born. This is during my childhood. I have very fond memories of Douglas Community Center. I can vividly remember Mrs. Irma Bridgewater, one of the first directors of Douglas Center and an exemplary role model. She was instrumental in shaping an entire generation of young people. Not only did she facilitate classes in cooking, sewing, cultural arts, etiquettes, and keep in mind, most of these were free classes, but we also had various fitness programs, roller skating, weight training, basketball teams, baseball teams. I myself was on the Douglas Center track team, and it was a boys and girls track team. And then we had the Douglas Center drill team and drum corps. In 1972, I believe was a year, Eric, that Douglas Center brought home a first place trophy in a national competition with 364 other drum corps in New York City. This really made the community proud. When we heard the sound of the drums, it brought people to Douglas Park, and it was more than music. For us, it was a spiritual connection to the motherland.
Ms. Roberson, I apologize. When you hear the beep, that means your 3 minutes are up. I don't know if you're at the point of concluding, but I just wanted to make you aware of that.
May I indulge the board for 2 more minutes?
It's up to the board.
We've got other people that want to speak. Can you wrap it up in like half a minute, please?
Okay, violence often grows in spaces where people feel disconnected, unsupported, bored, stressed, or unheard. Recreation plays a vital role in curbing violence by giving young people safe places to go, positive activities to join, and caring adults who can guide them. When community centers, gyms, and parks are open and active, they create structure, supervision, and sense of belonging. Now, while the Park District cannot solve every challenge facing the North End, it can serve as an important force in bringing about some positive change in the community. I want to thank you for your time. I'm sorry for going over.
You're doing all right. Next, we have Martell Miller.
My name is Martell Muller. I've been here a few times. When we come to talk about those sparks, you said it was a good footprint, flagship in our community. When I growed up, they had all kind of programs going there. They even had a director. I can't believe Douglas Center right now don't have a director. You can't really have programs in a place if you don't have a director. I don't know how y'all came to the conclusion to take a director out of Douglas Center and put everything at the Martin Center, and for our kids to get to the Martin Center, they had to cross the tracks on Brad. Y'all don't realize that would be a serious, dangerous situation. I remember when they first built Douglas Center, we thought Douglas Center was going up, we thought we was gonna get a pool at Douglas Center. But we didn't get the pool at Douglas Center. We thought we was gonna get a pool at the Martin Center. Because our community needs to learn to swim too. We didn't get the pool at the Martin Center. I'm just trying to figure out, if I was sitting on the board
what would be the plans I would have for a community like ours? You know, we're probably one of the poorest communities over there. They should have everything that we got over here. Our tax money pays for taxes from over there, come right here. Then I was looking at you, thought about building a new Douglas Center, a tax increase. Or to get tax increase for me, I have to see what y'all got already. Y'all allocated funds and y'all unallocated funds. You know, what do y'all got already sitting in the bank that y'all not using? You know, before you ask for a tax hike, that's something that have the citizens say, oh, we don't need to be taxed no more. I ain't going to tax for what I pay for the school. I live in the school. Grandfather, they tax. I do something with it because they got everything they need, but I'm still paying this high tax. So with the park district, we need the bill, gotta have a director. Well, the director gotta have a program. We had to put people in there, not students. We had students for part-time help, but we need a person in there that will carry these kids from 5 years old to 17 years old. So you gotta pay them a living good wage. And if you do that, we can definitely get rid of some of the stuff that goes on in our neighborhood because they have a place to go with good supervision. You know, if you want to solve a problem, you put money in the problem. I told you the city the same way. Y'all need to look at what you're doing for the community that need the most help. You want a great park district ought to be great all across the city instead of one. And instead of 2 or 3 places. I'll let you know.
Thank you. Last, we have Carlos Cobb.
He's good.
Good, okay.
Excuse me. Or, I don't know what you do with my form, I signed something, said I was.
Sorry about that.
Sorry, did I?
Mr. Townsend.
All right, Mr. Thompson, go ahead.
This one.
Okay.
I must be one of the favorite ones. They wanted to last year, I was under disability provisions. Again, I could speak for 5 minutes. Someone was supposed to, was gonna get back to me. I never heard. So,
Who did you reach out to? Who did you reach out to?
well, I made that comment in here in front of everybody, when I asked for 5 minutes of chair, then it's 5 minutes for all the speakers. To be fair, remember that? And that was gonna be researched and someone was gonna get back to me. But I didn't hear from them. So I'm asking now, under disability provisions, can my time be extended to 5? I don't think I need 5.
That's acceptable, go ahead.
Okay? Everybody okay with that? Yeah. My name is Terry Townsend. All of you know me, I think. What a battle. Thank you for your service, all of you. I am aware of the time that you put in installing pickleballs and the speed at which you're installing those. And I think the entire community thanks you for that. Yet, from 1976 to 1926, 50 years, the City of Champaign report a total of 3 building permits were issued to address issues with Frederick Douglass Recreation and Community Centers, known as Douglass Center. Again, 3 building permits issued in 50 years. I'll deal with that later. Clearly, these issues at Douglass historically have not been addressed timely or equally. I want to turn to your questionnaire. I'll get that questionnaire. You got some online responses, you got some telephone responses. The online responses, clearly, they're supposed to be confidential. The telephone responses are anonymous. They probably won't be anonymous, but at any rate, I look at your mapping. This is from that, this is your document. Everybody see this? If you look at this closely, you can see that the area that's circled is where we call the north. Look at the red dot. There are very few. In that survey, they claim something around 50% of the respondents were from that neighborhood or African American. I beg to, this is your document, not yours, but consultant are here. Everybody can look at it if you will. Now specific questions. Question 12 and 17 of the questionnaire survey is essentially the same question with different outcomes. I'll read question 17. Which facilities do you visit often? There's no time frame attached to that question. Douglas Center was established as a equal and separate facility. Segregation and discrimination guaranteed or ensured 100% participation from African Americans. Today, that participation is less than 100%. But you can't look at the survey and determine why. Here are some of the reasons why. Staff and programs have been transferred away from Douglas Center. There are youth and police problems. Douglas Center is closed intermittently. Essentially, public recreation and the community facility have been transferred into a for-profit fee-based event center. This undoubtedly is mission driven. You're moving away from your mission. Question 19. Which project should be prioritized? The Douglas Center question on the survey states, restore or rebuild Douglas Community Center. Restore or rebuild. All of you know I have been campaigning to tear down Douglas Center and rebuild in the same spot. Somehow the architects got another question, which was restore. I don't know where that came from. This question has no business on a questionnaire survey. It's a political question. You ought to be ashamed of yourself. You didn't do it. The consultants did it. Question 22. Would you support an increase in taxes if it meant having access to new or improved facilities? Now, my God, we know the mood of the taxpayers. Go ask Win 4. Go ask the city of Champaign. Go ask Muhammad. That question almost guarantees a no. However, on the survey, 76% say they would support increases in taxes for access to new or improved facilities. Still, the question is likely to be used to defeat efforts to rebuild again a new Douglas Center. There's something called the Summit in Grand Prairie, Texas. They didn't have to raise taxes. They're nationally recognized. Lastly, and I want you to be clear, citizens should be able to opt out of paying taxes if their needs aren't met. I do not think it is necessary to start a campaign to meet with legislators to get legislation to do that. That's what I'm out there. But the questions on the survey are problematic, and how it's administered was problematic. I would suggest that you should not even entertain that as part of your deliberations. And lastly,
Thank you.
can I just say one sentence? When I was a housing commissioner for 10 years, I learned about errors and omissions insurance. The council told us, just like if you at home and you shovel your sidewalk, and you don't get all the ice up, and somebody slip or fall, you have legal exposure. The same thing with this. Restoring Dudley Center, if you don't do it right, you're gonna have legal exposure. I would ask you to check with legal counsel. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Next item, our discussion items.
President members, I would ask if anyone else have public comment they would like to share.
If there was anyone that didn't fill out a form that would like to deliver comment. Is it on the same topic?
No, may I have this submitted as part of the record since I wasn't able to finish?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Good enough. Yeah, next item, discussion items. Champaign Park District vision. Discussion.
Yes, pick it up. So. We last met on this topic, a while ago. And at that time, we were in the middle of a number of studies. The Williams Facility Feasibility Study, the ADA Transition Plan, Audit and Transition Plan, our community survey, and a Prairie Farm Master Plan. And those studies have for the most part wrapped up. And you all have received an abundance of information to review and think about and look at. And to kick off the conversation, I asked just one question of you know, if everything's a priority, then it's hard to prioritize. So I asked if you were thinking about some big buckets of priority, what rises to the top in your mind? As a reminder, those priorities are assets and infrastructure, program and community impact, financial sustainability and efficiency, community experience and equity, and organizational excellence and workforce. And you know, the answers were kind of across the board, but asset and infrastructure did rise to the top as the priority that was selected as number one the most times. We also recently, you all approved a capital reserve policy, as well as just a capital, how we develop our capital plan with priorities, and have established that it's important to protect and to take care of what we have first, to keep up with our deferred maintenance, and you know, before making decisions about anything new or any enhancements within the district. So with that in mind, I mean, I'd love to just have an open discussion. There's, like I said, and you know, and we do have a few guiding questions, but that I thought might stir some conversation. So what core needs are emerging in our community? Where should we lead and where should we support? And how do we prioritize projects, partnerships, and resources? We could talk about, you know, one at a time. Or you all want to share thoughts, open to what you think would be the most productive conversation.
Yes, if does any of the board have general thoughts, I guess, as far as kind of overarching, not just capital improvement, but you know, where we see ourselves as a park district, as far as where we get our revenue from, what we spend those money on, and have an overarching idea. And if you don't, that's okay, but Craig, why don't you, if you.
If I may, I'd like to point out a couple documents that were left for all commissioners, if I may.
Yes.
First of all, and this is on me, I asked staff to get a map and put it into grids, and so there are seven.
Or seven, yeah, one I included.
Essentially 7 grids, there could have been 8, but if you look at the map and we divide it by 8. Nothing highly technical about it, just squared off the city. And this is just for informational purposes only, but then we have this document which then details what's in each corridor, if you will, or each section. And just so you can have a rough idea of where we currently have our facilities, where we have no facilities, what type of facilities there are, so we can hone it down to what may or may not make sense. And so if you can look at that, know where the population base is. And then I'd like to go back to a comment that Commissioner Rouse made last meeting, and it was, we should take care of the facilities we currently have and make sure they are as productive as possible. In other words, mine the gold you already have, take care of what we have with our existing funds before we venture off into some grandiose new plan, if you will. So taking the information here, having that in mind, and then seeing what facilities or what programs we do not offer that we should or can or may might fill in a lot of the blanks. But to some of the audience comments, we all pay taxes. We all live in the city of Champaign. Some of us longer than others. And some of us have moved through the community. As Mr. Townsend can attest, where I first started my career, as they say. So I think if we can analyze that information, or at least take a look at it and see where there are no facilities, or where the facilities are that we should maintain or improve, then we should then put a plan together to move forward from that point, instead of spending money on X or Y that's the new shiny thing, but doesn't address the current shortcomings, if you will. So that's kind of where I would start. And that's why I asked staff to put this together, so that we would at least be able to see the areas of the community that did or did not have certain facilities. And if they have a lot of facilities, then with our study, we should be able to look at those and determine if dollars are needed to improve access or whatever to those facilities.
I have a comment along that same line, because I appreciated this exercise, but I'd also like to see it based on the population. Because it's just not, I mean, you have a couple of quadrants up to the north, which there's not a lot of population. And so I would like to see the map done, putting it in population, where the population, and it's pretty easy to do on ChatGPT. It'll do it for you in a matter of seconds. So
We'll do it in GPS, but we can definitely overlay a
But
density.
more than the you know, the land mass is one element, but the population is another element of that.
Point taken.
I have something to add to that. So like up in the northeast quadrant, there aren't a lot of residents, there's not a lot of facilities, but a good portion of your tax dollars is up there in that area, because you have industrial warehouses and apartment complexes that pay a lot of tax dollars, even though all the people that work there don't necessarily pay taxes, but they pay multiple of what residential people pay. And there's not a lot for them to do if they want to do something on their lunch hour or something. So it becomes very complicated. You have to look at a lot of things, and it's not one thing you can zero on to say, well, this is where we should put our money, because 600 people live there, and in this quadrant, there's, 200 people. There's a lot that needs to be considered in where we go and what we do in the community.
I totally agree with you, Jane. That's why I'd like to see the other element too, so we can look at both of them and maybe there's more that other people come up with that we should be looking at, because it's not an easy just throw a dart and you'll find the right place. So,
And usage, I think measuring usage, which everybody's kind of,
right.
how do you do that and quantify that? That's,
I mean,
ideally, I'd like to have a turnstile and, every entry in one, that'd be ideal.
right. It's
Well, in
difficult
some
for
stuff to
people that live in Ashland South for young kids to get to other facilities and stuff, and they're paying taxes, and they're like, well, we have to cross all these busy streets, so how do we get to? And that's the same in any area. I mean, every little pocket thinks that they're underserved because there isn't a center in their location, and I think we look at is the Martin Center was built where it was because we were given the land and we were given some money. And we thought, we would provide transportation to help children get across the railroad tracks and everything. And apparently that is not acceptable. If people would do some more fundraising and try to find somebody that would, Martin Center was built by a lot of community people donating money before we started building. It wasn't just we picked that location to make it inaccessible or not easy for people to get to. And I think we just all need to be understanding of the concerns that everybody has and try to make the best solution for the good of the community.
Point by Jane, I think, it is a function of geography. I think we have a goal of, you want everybody to be able to walk to a park.
To a park, correct, which we achieved.
So
We have that.
every neighborhood, every place in Champaign should be walking distance to a park.
We far exceed that.
And,
Standard.
but I think there are other factors, obviously, population and density and usage and the tax base, where we should be putting it is, where the people are paying for it. And so all good points on that. And this was very helpful, Craig, for us.
Yeah, if there's other overlays you'd like added, let me know.
Yeah, I think we do need some more overlays.
It's a start.
Right. It gives you an idea of where facilities are and are not. And by facilities, we mean actual buildings and complexes, not parks.
Yeah.
Is that-
And one other slight bit of information, if we could get through the foundation, we spend about 80,000, give or take, on what we call scholarships. for
100.
Free entry, if you will,
Annually.
annually. 'Cause that's kind of where I came from originally to get on the board. So if we can also add that component where which facilities are using those dollars. I don't know, or which programs maybe, is that
Oh,
better?
definitely programs.
Because we know that
Yeah.
through the foundation, we are spending anywhere from 80 to 100,000. It's varied, but it's gone from 60 to up to
Yeah, it's
$100,000 of free entry, if you will.
We overhauled our scholarship program
and-
2 years ago, and it made it more accessible for people to apply for scholarship and to receive it. And
And perhaps if we had that information, plus had the ability to get that information out more to all of the communities so that more people could take advantage of it, because I know the foundation is raising more and more money, which is great. They could add to that, which will reduce some of the inhibiting factors for access. So if we could get
Sure.
that, that'd be great.
other kind of opening remarks, overall thoughts? I was thinking.
No, I mean, I think the results kind of, we're looking at assets and infrastructure, and you said that last time, I think we need to kind of address what we currently have before we start looking at advancements and additional, whatever you want to call it, either building structures. And I think, you know, when some of the survey results that we got back recently, you go through, I'm not gonna name them all off, but there's plenty of information there to go by, and I'm of the opinion, let's start addressing these, knock them out, be done with them, get them behind us, and bring things up to standards to where they need to be, so that everybody can benefit. Would I like a great new Taj Mahal, and we're gonna use this? Hey, you bet, 100%. But we also have to be realistic and take care of what we've currently got and bring it up to standards in modern times.
So around the horn, Jane, do you have any opening
No,
thoughts?
that's what I.
Well, my only comment would be, I think of these 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 items that were sent out. To me, those are all pillars of what we should be looking at when we talk about a project, or we talk about a building, or we talk about any item in our vision that we have. Because I don't see that we can do anything without including all of these in that. So I don't see them as one being a priority over the other. I see them as, when we talk about the Douglas Center, we look at it and we look at all of these items, and they all come into play for that, for whatever it is we're looking at in our strategic plan. So that's just my basic comment. I don't think any one of them stand alone. I think they all go together.
Appreciate it, Sarah, you putting that together and kind of get the conversation started. I would agree with you that, yeah, obviously we all felt that way, or most of us felt that way, as far as asset and infrastructure existing care. And I think our ADA survey that you mentioned, I think we do a pretty good job with that. I think those items get checked off, as we go along. I think I don't see any glaring deficiencies. I think we're doing a great job with that. The Williams architects came up with some interesting ideas for projects we could take on. Should we want to pursue something new, but also as far as upkeep of our current facilities, I think there's some ideas in there. Other overriding kind of ideas I have is diversifying our revenue streams. I have a lot of concern when I hear, in Florida, they're talking about, people are tired of paying taxes, and that is nationwide, and especially I think acute here in Illinois, where we hear about property taxes being high comparatively to other communities. But yeah, in Florida, they're talking about increasing the homestead exemption, and so all units of local government there are preparing for that by, doing some initial budget cutting. And I don't want to find ourselves in a situation like that. I think people do value the park district. I think they value what we do. But I think it would help us sustainability wise to find other sources of income in the case that the public picks up the pitchforks and torches. So that's kind of my thoughts, is just being careful about the property tax nationwide. That actually seems to be okay. That being said,
I feel like I hear there is a board consensus of kind of overall a thought of taking care of what we have.
correct. Yeah. As far as that goes, then, are there specific projects then that we should then discuss to get a priority going?
Sure.
Okay. Again, I guess, should we go around through staff as well and kind of thoughts or ideas or?
Yeah, I mean, I think again, any building, we could make the case to start with. Um,
So I guess what I'd be interested in our reserves funds and everything, like, okay. For the next 10 years, what do we have budget that needs to be replaced? in Buildings, and what's that dollar amount? And then what would we have left to make other types of needed improvements to them?
okay. I don't know that we have that information available right now, but
People always are
Yeah.
concerned about this excess money, but we know when we have to put a new roof on, you know, the Leonard Center, for example, that's gonna be over $1 million. When you have to start replacing HVAC units, you know, that's another big number. The swimming pool is gonna age out pretty soon and need some major repairs. And over the last 15, 20 years, we have tried to set aside money. So we're not always raising taxes. And if you look at your tax rate, we have been very good at not raising taxes, like your school district and some of the other ones. And we're trying to maintain the facilities in a responsible way without raising taxes. Because we all pay taxes too, and we know it hurts. So I would like to see that, because I know that Leonard Center is aging now, it's 20-some years. The pool, what major expenses are gonna hit us there? The Virginia Theater. You know, the Hay Center, any of the facilities we have, what's out there?
As far as the capital improvement, I mean, what,
I'm just
Even-
pulling up the Williams
even
study for
playgrounds.
September.
In today's world, it's at least $300 and some thousand to replace any playground.
And we have 35,
We have
actually
35.
36 now with Hedgerock.
So everything is exponentially increased. Where you used to be able to spend $95,000 or $100,000, that's not the case anymore. Even our splash pads are going to need some major work in a few years. Because the pumps and everything don't last forever.
And Douglas had the first and it's the oldest now, so it's gonna need some major rehab. And it's well used.
And we were, yes, because we put it there because there is no pool in that area, and thought that would be a financially good investment, because you don't have to pay lifeguards and people, you don't have to have a lot of the costs that go with it. Except for the water, which is now, even water has increased by 30-40%, so, you know, it's, yes.
okay,
I got to what I was looking for. It's very small. I have good eye. That it's too small. I was just gonna look to see if there was a total at the bottom of this remedial repair recommendation. Oh yeah, 6.6 million
is remedial.
for the remedial repairs.
So
So
remedial repairs over the how many years?
that was just that's
Identify-
total. It's not broken out by years.
Okay.
It's 5 years.
Oh, because they
Just now.
Total.
yeah, right now to
Big chunk of that is,
tackle deferred maintenance essentially.
Right.
6.6.
big chunk of that is, it's spring.
Yes.
Dodds running a pretty distant second.
Half the spreader then,
Pardon?
of the 6.6 half on the line
Uh,
spreader.
Yes, yes, it is.
Most.
Half, yeah, 3.3.
And a portion of that we have to do because of the government. The
Right.
federal government.
Because we took.
We took the building from the Department of the Interior.
They require.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's things we have to do. And that's one of the things we probably have to do, so. Those remedial repairs. Or maybe not just a necessity or a priority, but a necessity.
So we'll be utilizing this information and building out the, next year's capital plan as well as the next years as we continue to work towards a more robust, fully built out 10-year capital plan. But say, definitely in the next 3 years, we'd want to address a lot of these that are more urgent than I'd say.
And I think it's worth asking, how much can we take on in addition to, programs that's gonna continue to move? So as we, let's say we go down this, and we add these things on, operationally, can we handle all of this?
No. That is.
That's a good question. Good.
Well, I think there's a balance of, what is immediate, what can maybe wait. And that bubbles to the top. As we've talked about in preliminary planning of the capital plan next year, we talked about Springer specifically, that there are a number of exterior maintenance items that need to be addressed. And so, as we're thinking about generating alternative sources of revenue, there's an opportunity as well to think about the kitchen area and enhancing the interior Springer to attract more rentals and
Right, but during that period, they're doing renovations, Springer will not be able to be fully utilized, so you have to have either not provide those programs or find another place for those programs to be held.
maybe. Hopefully we could, plan it when during quieter times or to have as little disruption as possible, but yes, right.
But that's just like with doing the improvement to the special. Yeah, now people complain all the time, there's not enough parking for Leonard and Shoal because that parking lot's out of line. So whenever you go to improve something, then you upset somebody that uses that facility someplace else. It's.
We
Can't make
can't
every,
even,
That's why we
we don't even have enough parking
Yeah.
for Preston during the day because pickleballers and throwing parks here.
Everybody wants what they want and they want it now.
Sure. And there's not an infinite amount of money. But also, we're putting HVAC in the Dodds right now, with the intent to open that up year round. It's, a space that currently operates in the black. So as we're, thinking about facilities and spaces that can generate revenue, that helps support our subsidized programming.
Along those lines, I guess the two areas I see in going through the Williams Architect study, where you have big opportunities or bigger opportunities for diversifying income. I think Shoal one, the Dodds Tennis Center 2, and Springer, with potential rentals and things of that nature. I think those are the three that could turn into, bigger money makers. So I guess, I think Shoal needs attention beyond just, potential renovations, but is that when you wanna touch off those projects.
Well, and just so we're all, I think we're all on the same page, but moneymaker as in generating revenue to support other things that don't generate revenue.
You. Before. you
Or
show
generate
them,
less
look
revenue.
at, Shoreland has never been,
I would be happy if Shoreland broke even.
and
Lost less.
yeah, less. Again,
Yeah.
you know, Shoreland is, to me, it's a great asset in the community, but if it's too hot, they don't come. If it's too cold, they don't come. And if it rains, they don't come. So it's a hard one to, to generate. Yeah, break even would be great. I don't think that's ever gonna happen. We can subsidize it. That's not a problem. But again, I don't think by adding a deep well dive that you're gonna boost the attendance significantly. You may boost it a little bit, but will it be enough to offset what you spent on it? I'm not necessarily saying I'm not in favor of adding an amenity to it. But again, it's not where
So
we're gonna generate more revenue.
we don't have enough land for it.
For a depot?
For this type of expansion or renovation, but the Monon pool in Carmel, Indiana generates enough revenue to cover the cost of the community center the rest of the year. In their
Carmel is a
three
very different.
3 months of operation.
Sarah.
Well, it's a much,
Very
they have
different.
7 bodies of water there, but there is,
Lots of people,
you know,
brought from.
well, but they also draw in non-residents. into their space.
Thanks.
I think we're confusing revenue streams with just our basic, what can we get ticket wise, so to speak, if you will. At the Virginia, and I'm looking at revenue streams as sponsorships, and advertising, and signage, and who wants to put a new baseball scoreboard in Douglas and put their real estate name, whatever, on the bottom. I'm looking at some out of the box ideas for the Virginia. Why don't we get somebody other than those sponsored movies from the News Gazette, which we do, that doesn't quite make a lot of revenue, but there's got to be someone in town who has a connection with X, whatever that X is, to bring in a play or a dance group or whatever, and that will generate revenue because they will want to sponsor that. Those are types of things that we're not used to, but other park districts are. I go out to Colorado, I have family there, and they got to sign up for every storefront and every Jimmy John's and Burger King and whatever in every park. And then they are also monetizing that such as Douglas, Dodge, I'm sorry, the fourplex. They're reaping huge amounts of money by allocating food trucks for X, whatever. I mean, they're just doing that on a daily basis. I went to a hockey game and I couldn't see the hockey players for all the signage for every advertisement. I mean, I could see them, but every board was taken by someone spending money to get eyeballs. And so those are the ideas we need. That money is what's going to improve facilities throughout the community, not just if we put a sign up, if we had every square inch of the fence in Shoreland plastered with some revenue stream, if you will. Those dollars don't necessarily have to go there. They go in the general pot, so then we can improve facilities throughout the community, not just here or there, but make that priority list. I mean, as Commissioner Rouse says, we need to fix up what we have and get that put away and then move forward. We have some land. We know buildings that we need to improve. We do. It's $20 to $30 million worth that we need. And we need to spend $6 real quick. So those are revenue streams that I think.
Good point.
Just not as easy as it used to be as federal and state deem there's more regulations, there's more safety features. You have to have this and that when you build a pool, and you have to have a lifeguard every so many, feet. And they have to have breaks, and it's the same with Virginia with the things that pull the curtains and all that, and the lights and everything. I wish a lot of things were like they were 40, 50 years ago. It'd be much easier, but that's not the case now. And it just takes a lot more money and a lot more thought before we add new programs or build new facilities, and we have to be able to know that we can keep them going and keep them maintained.
I think we also need to remember timing. As Commissioner Cool and I definitely know of the 50+ meetings that we went to get the Martin Center up and off the ground and it finally opened. And that was a 5-year exercise. And we had a bucket of money in place already for that, through the Martin's kind gesture. And we also looked at that section of the community in that they'd already taken the Y out of that Center Park temple. We used that, a little bit of that vision to put some opportunities back in that north central area of the community. So the timing is something we also need to look at. I mean, we need to start generating revenue now so that if we plan on X today and it gets done in 5 years, we have those dollars, because we don't want to tax people. Because I know I pay enough taxes. And if you do the math, because Illinois is the 3rd highest taxed state in the country, and Champaign County happens to be the 4th highest taxed county in the state of Illinois, you do the math, and we are in the top 20. And my pockets are empty. So it's a timing factor also. Anything we decide.
We're kind of all over the board.
Yes,
That's
we haven't narrowed this down much, but we've got a lot of.
Yeah. My position is pretty consistent. I just think we just need to identify what we're gonna do, when we're gonna do it. Easier said than done. I mean, as we've come to find out. But I think there's a broad consensus of let's figure out, let's knock these things out. And the ones that have continuously been on these lists, the Parkland Ways, the ADA stuff that we just continue, and I think we should be aggressive and knock some of those out.
The ADAs we have been aggressive.
Yes,
Not so much.
Yeah,
sure.
Right.
There was a vote.
Sure, no, I've seen them through the long list.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was ever gonna.
Well, yeah, I actually didn't really mention ADA because I feel like as an organization, we do a really good job of addressing it. We talk about it in our design. In new things.
Yeah,
that
I'm
we
not saying we
designing.
don't address it.
Oh, yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to
Those things that.
say that you weren't. I just wanted to.
But it's also
It's a
moving
priority.
It is.
But it's a moving target because, you look at the Martin Center, which was just finished a few years ago.
Oh, sure.
And, and a lot of, I have to say, I started looking at that report. And some of it we can just cross off right away. I mean, we've got many parks. Bannon Park was our first one.
Yeah.
Make the sidewalk more accessible. We don't own it. That's a city. Why was that on there? Provide parking. At Bannon Park, you want to provide parking? So some of those things, we just need somebody to go through and say, okay, no. And I think that's kind of what they did with the last plan is say, yes, this is something we have to do, but no, this is not something. And we can't become all things to all people with all facilities.
That's exactly the next step, though.
Yes, yes.
Is doing that
that is it to do.
staff analysis of okay, let's actually now we create the plans. We've got all the data.
Right. So
Maybe an action plan then.
Yep.
yes,
Exactly.
This is kind of where I think the next step is, okay, take the ADA plan. We sit, you guys go through it and then we sit and analyze it. Then we take Williams, some of the stuff, You know, we all know what a consultant gives you. They give you their biggest dream that you could do. Maybe we take Williams' study and we go through it and we say, no, can't do this. Yes, we can do this. You know, or people make their list from Williams' study.
Chunk of Williams though is remedial things that
Mhm.
kind of fall in the classification almost of the ADA kind of.
Yeah, there's a lot of overlap.
There's
Yeah.
some overlap.
And then I think, you know, the community survey, that's, you know, we've all looked at the community survey. We're the, so the Poblonsky, or however you say his name, gave us a report for what the 298 people they surveyed, and then the
400.
that report says 298, but then the Park District surveyed additional people. Was that ever added into the?
The 298 was the Park District side of it.
Yeah, I think
And then the
that's-
400 was from this.
I just looked at that today, and his report, I could have sworn said 298, and it didn't. I didn't think it, and I would never, you can find it, Sarah, I can't navigate this thing. But anyway, there were two sets of
data.
Was it ever combined and put into one set of data and provided to us?
No.
Is that gonna happen?
So you could look at it to reflect on the overall themes, but they should be kept separate according to what the researcher told us, because certain scientific standard that's set so that it's valid and reliable. Whereas we opened it up to the rest of the public to give more comment if they did not have the opportunity for that standard.
Okay.
So they kept them separate necessarily because of that.
But they were asked the same question.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so here's his report, and on this page right here, it says a total of 298 residents were surveyed.
So that
Champaign Park District Park, this is his. It's his
this
report.
is the open link.
Oh, okay, so where's the other one then? So that's what the Park District did.
Yeah, so
Okay.
so if we're in the same folder, there's 4 things. There was the board presentation is like an executive
This is where I
summary.
am. I don't know how to navigate all of this stuff.
Okay,
Okay,
so
there
this
it
is
is,
like the
okay,
executive summary. This is the open link
okay,
perfect.
perfect.
Whole thing. This is the whole thing. Or this is the statistically valid one. And then this is another
Okay,
presentation. So yeah, 400 in the statistically valid, and then we collected an additional 298.
and one of my takeaways from that, and it always has been when we've done community service or community surveys, is trails. And we haven't even touched on trails. We have put no money to speak of in our budget for trails. And that is one of the elements that I think truly would enhance this community. Tough to do, but, and I think isn't somebody else doing a study on trails as well? Isn't the regional planning or something?
Yes. I believe so.
So again, that to me, that's, as we're looking at not only facilities, but other things to enhance the community, trails is definitely one of them.
Our trail plan is long overdue to be redone. Placeholder for capital.
Yeah.
For this next year. But then additionally, I mean, I agree, it comes at the top of our survey.
Yeah.
I think there might have been discussion of even including a question or including that in there, because we know it's going to be at the top of the survey. It's a known thing. So if we can, we're getting this pipeline trail shortly, and or the additional segment of it, but we also know that there's a misconnection, and so could start there with closing that gap, but with a thought to the bigger the district, and a fully connected trail network would be really great.
I mean, is there a way to connect O'Malley's Alley and what's over that kind
The
of?
green belts.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it's
It's
connected now.
It is all connected.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's really nice. Yeah, you can take O'Malley's all the way to Dots
Jasper, oh.
through Heritage. Which
Since we're talking about trails, I'll just mention Roby Trail too. It's got a lot of portions of it that really need some enhancements, and I think there's some opportunities for us to work with the city on those crossings of the Finney Branch that are real problematic.
That's the one behind the old Walgreens.
Yes, it
Yes.
starts there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Simon.
Gets to Simon and then through Robeson.
I haven't been on it for a few years, but it's really bad. It's pretty,
It's
but
beautiful.
there's, and a little bit of rain and you're
Yes.
going through water.
Absolutely. Those low water crossings and then there's sediment and mud and, there's a lot of erosion going on. And so it's a bigger thing that I have had some preliminary discussions and on-site meetings with individuals from the city, but
Especially those two bridges. I mean, we talked specifically about those and there was interest in
so
reason.
just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah, so the trail plan is really a combination of the city, us,
Right.
and the county, and getting, it's, I think on your list was
Kickapoo.
connecting to the Kickapoo.
Real collaborative thing.
Mhm. And it's on that collaborative issue.
Another item added.
Like,
Another item added. Green parks, active trails.
I think the question is, how do you tackle? How do you tackle? Yeah, we have a lot of data, a lot of information. How do you go about tackling and prioritizing without doing, you can have, and do it in small steps and then pull it all together like a puzzle piece.
Yeah. Eating the elephant.
Pardon me?
Eating the elephant.
Yeah.
One bite at a time.
Yeah, so you can get almost paralysis by analysis. You get inundated with so much data. It's like, okay, what it's.
Well, I think from a planning standpoint, this current capital plan was higher dollar amount than has been spent in the past. Well, since I've been here, it's the highest capital plan that we've had, but was designed carefully to, we just want to put items on the plan that we're not going to accomplish. But there, with the pickleball project, there was a bigger project on the plan with other smaller items to make up the whole plan. And I think moving forward, that might be something that we should think about is, are we gonna do a bigger kind of like $3 to $5 million project that maybe spans a couple years and then, continue with the other capital items that we typically see on a year-to-year basis that are a little bit more towards specific maintenance and upkeep. But if taking a thought to enhancement with some additional dollars in addition to to supplement. I think of the pickleball project as an enhancement to the district. I'm not talking about adding new necessarily. I'm saying enhancing our current facilities.
Could there possibly be like if you take out the pickleball, a major project, could there be a standard set that we want to do X amount of our budget in capital projects? Or X amount of our tax revenue, or something where you have a guideline where you start with.
Yeah.
And then you fill in the pieces, because as a commissioner.
Kind of have that, right?
So we've been primarily doing pay as you go, which means you save up for larger capital projects, and then for our annual issuance, we also tackle some of those maintenance items or our annual debt issuance that we use for projects. We may hit like one major project with that, and then some of our smaller remedial projects as well, for some maintenance items.
What actually defines a capital expenditure?
So, we have anything that's $10,000 or over, we consider capital. In terms of like capitalization, where we're wanting to do projects.
I'm sorry, say that again.
10,000?
Yeah, 10,000 is the-
a project for
Yeah.
them. We normally program them into our.
Oh, to put it, yeah, but 10,000.
Seems pretty low.
That is what's in the policy and
But we could always bring forward.
auditor
adjustment if
recommendation.
that's, something.
Well, it doesn't, I mean, you don't, in business, it makes a difference tax wise, but for you all, it doesn't make a difference tax wise, so.
Yeah, that's, I think, in the next round of. Board policy, as a separate item, that's something that we could evaluate, raising the threshold. Just because we have seen inflation impact the costs of our capital projects, so we could always increase that. Our capitalization on various assets.
So would question what's the benefit of it being higher or lower? The threshold.
Well, to me, replacing the carpet could cost you $10,000, and that's to me not what I look at as a capital expenditure. There's different categories. It would be, routine maintenance would be
Oh, sure.
replacing the
Okay.
carpet. Replacing the roof is a capital expenditure, but replacing the carpet would not. And I think you've separated
Well, yeah,
out
because I guess
some of the normal maintenance, but it still falls under the capital category, right?
So we'll budget as like capital outlay, but it's not a capital project.
the carpet would be in
Maybe
a
like
flooring
our
replacements
routine
line.
maintenance, category.
Projects have always been playgrounds, parking lots.
I think you just took that other stuff out recently.
Yes, we did.
Yeah,
Especially since most of it's on
Yeah.
the operating.
right, right.
Lights.
So when you compared the
Yeah, I get,
million,
okay,
it
I'm
would
following.
be-
Yes,
Yeah.
right, okay.
Yeah,
Factors.
but I just think there would be a target that, especially if we come up with this plan as to all these things we have to do, that you'd want to allocate, have kind of a guideline as to every year start with this amount and see what you can accomplish, and then rather than just, because where did the 7 million come for this year? Just you guys evaluating. I mean, it's not a percentage of our tax revenue, or it's, and you build it first and then you build the rest of the budget, don't you?
So, if we get direction from board when we bring forward just like some of the ideas, and some of it is like the routine replacements of playgrounds as well as vehicles and things of that nature. Or priorities that the board have already set. Hopefully from this meeting, we'll have some direction on how we want to move forward, and then we'll bring something in the fall for consideration.
Because a couple of years ago, didn't we go through and kind of say, okay, this is our schedule of vehicles and this is what's gonna have to be replaced over the next 5 years?
Yes.
And the
We
same.
have several schedules for
Yes.
different things, outdoor sport courts, lighting.
Exactly.
All those.
So that kind of plays in as a starting point, and then,
Right.
I have a lot of those inventories and schedules.
For our capital, yes.
So those portions are basically pre-programmed, if you will, scheduled through the capital program. If you go down and you can look at 26, 27, 27, 28, et cetera, et cetera. So those are programmed, if you will, in. There might be some slight adjustments, whether the costs go up or down. Sometimes we get a better bid than we thought, et cetera, but those are programmed. So we need to set those aside, if you will, as budgetary items. And then you have your basic labor pool. Our wages, that, so you don't have a lot of money at the end, if you will, if you want to do that. And I know at one time we talked about only spending quote unquote new money on capital items.
That's right, we did.
So, because we were behind the 8 ball at some point in time. So we needed to restrict that.
And I think we do have reserves, I mean, which testament to prior boards and everybody else, that's not a bad thing, that's a good thing.
Yeah, if we had not had those reserves when the pandemic hit.
Problem now,
There
that's
was
correct.
Yes, we instead of furloughing all the part-time people, we would have jettisoned them, and there's some benefits to the furlough, and we also could keep all of our employees fully engaged and fully paid. Even though there were a lot of programs and a lot of situations where they were not working, we maintained our labor pool, we maintained staff, because you can't run a park district without staff, it's just that simple. So reserves do have a function, if you will, and for emergencies. And we've had a few of those at the Virginia Lear movie. Jimmy jacked around on an HVAC system, and that cost us money. I mean, because you can't do things without. Yeah.
You got a big deductible.
But that's what I mean, that's what happens when you operate within a budget, you manage it appropriately, you develop and acquire additional reserves, which you should have. I personally wouldn't be opposed to accessing some of those, not all of them, I'm not talking about a total depletion. But in accelerating some of these outstanding items from those reserves. If we've got all these things scheduled and we've got roofs and everything else is through the normal scheduling, we shouldn't be shocked. You may have a one-off event of a tornado. And if a tornado comes through and destroys all of our stuff, Champaign's gonna have a problem itself, because we don't want to use the parks anymore. So then there's, I mean, I just think that we could be somewhat a little bit more aggressive. Maybe aggressive is not the right term, prudent in how we do it. In addressing some of these.
Logistically possible, yes.
And that's why I posed the question earlier,
Yeah.
is that can we operationally manage some of these additional items going through it? Without taking on an additional salary
Yeah,
benefits and everything
personnel, right.
else that shoot ourselves in the foot, because what got us here to begin with, we're repeating the same cycle.
Give you a little bit of an answer, I
Yeah.
think, if you don't mind.
Yeah,
Sarah and
go.
I talked about this very thing a couple days ago, and I think we've put some things in place recently. For example, our construction project manager, she has brought a lot to the table. We've been able to get through a lot of these projects this year already, very efficiently. As you can tell from each meeting of all things we're bringing to you for approval. So I have felt very good about thus far this capital year. And I'm prepared to continue that if you give some guidance on how we should move forward.
Right.
That's good. And just for a little history too, when state and federal grants become available, matching grants, that's why some of the money's in reserve too, because you
Sure.
want $3 or $4 million, you have to be able to match that too. And you never know when those are gonna happen.
Sure.
We're not earning a lot.
Better than it was.
Bottom line, I don't think we'll bring you anything that you can't buy.
Anyhow.
Can't have. I wouldn't.
Yeah.
I speak for Sarah, but I would not want to put myself in that situation. So,
That
So-
never ends up well.
no.
No.
And we've had some years like
Yes.
that, right? We've had some where there's been carryover and
Yeah.
such, but
Where things have been missed because there was just too much going.
yeah, and things do come up, right? Things change and you all know that.
Yeah.
So, but
Sounds like there, check me if I'm wrong, sounds like there's kind of a consensus as far as the ADA items, kind of combing through that list, making sure we have those things complete. Am I?
I'm sorry,
uh,
what's our timeline on the transition plan development? We have,
I don't know if I can give you a good answer here, but we have started identifying what
maybe we were gonna like bring a draft to a board meeting.
we can do, we can identify that.
Yeah.
Yeah, somewhere on there, yeah.
Do we have our final report?
Not the final.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just was
We
curious.
have all the deficiency and
Yeah.
now we're, working on that action
Looking through
plan.
policy review.
Oh, okay. Not worried about policies.
But I think our next step internally is kind of identifying, as we've talked about, like what, however many we break those out. Okay, we can do this in a work order. We can do this in, our 10-year outlay plan. We can do this in, X. We can cross that off because, so.
Cross.
We're not gonna recommend bringing parking to Bannon.
No.
So we've, my staff and I have been talking about what's the most efficient and easiest way to get through that process, right? And do we work through Jennifer's platform of, the software that she uses, or do we try to, kick some of this into our own work order system, Productive Parks, so that we got to be able to track it in a manageable way. And so that's kind of where we're at right now.
And you said, so we do a 10-year plan again like we did in the past.
For the capital,
For the transition plan. It's a question. We would plan essentially for 10 years to work through the deficiencies, or
It was 10 years before.
I know, but we talked about getting through.
Well, yeah,
accreditation like every 7 or something like that.
Accreditation standard is 10 years now.
10.
We've gone through the first cycle since
Thing is,
2010 or
in 10 years,
2012.
they'll be new.
oh yeah, for sure.
but every year there will be new, so we can't, that can't
No,
be an
I'm
issue,
just
but
saying
yeah,
that list will never
Yeah.
be done.
yeah. But it's a pretty lengthy list at this point in time, so I'm thinking less than 10 years would be, if you can get it, cut a report in half, and pass a few of those
Yeah,
out.
I mean, it's a marathon,
Yeah.
as long as we're showing some progress, right?
Okay,
Sorry, I cut you off.
no, you're fine. All right, so 88 items, going through. Get those knocked out as quickly as logistically possible. And then, correct me if I'm wrong, the Williams Architect study, the remedial items that they know. Is there a consensus to get those taken care of as well? Keeping in mind that would, a good chunk of that does go towards Springer, and there are some people that have feelings on that.
Could we, say that we take a look at that and then have a discussion on it at a meeting?
Yeah, I don't think I'm
I'm not up to
enough
speed,
first,
yeah,
Exactly.
on what's in there,
Remedial
yeah.
things.
And as it relates to Springer, and can we have some research on what has to be done? Is that in there as it relates to the federal level and?
Yeah, I can answer that right now. So according, the PPU, requires us to,
Wait a minute, tell me what the PPU. Well, at least close,
it's in the agreement we have with the National Park
which
Service
we've had forever.
since 1990, yes.
But they
Okay.
cited this recent.
Yes,
Good.
although we haven't heard from them since we submitted our biennial report, but every 2 years, we have to submit a report that shows that we are maintaining the building, and then per that agreement, we are required to, within a reasonable time frame, bring the historic lobby back to only the historic lobby, which is L-shaped. So we have completed the restoration of the main portion of the lobby. The L serves as a conference room, and then also some of the offices. We put in and when we were getting pressured, most recently, because we haven't made reasonable, progress in the 30 years, beyond the main lobby. We cited that, when the carpet comes due for replacement in the conference room, that we will, restore the terrazzo tile. And we have earmarked that for 2020 see, 9, 20, 30. We've noted that and we got a stamp of approval from
Okay,
National Park Service.
So right now
But that
they're
was
in that-
sufficient that we
Okay.
said we're gonna do
okay,
this.
so that's all we have to do.
At the moment, yes.
Okay,
To answer your question, Barbara, it's program of preservation and utilization.
okay, thank you.
Preservation.
Remember,
I'm gonna need a history lesson on the acquisition, we're not gonna do that right now.
Require taking it to us.
Can we get that?
No,
No.
we can't give it back.
Find somebody else that.
No, I've
A government.
Hey, everybody.
Speaking of. Another government.
Set off the nerves here.
I can't imagine that this building in Champaign, Illinois is gonna cause a federal issue, but we'll see. But we need it.
That
We
case,
need the
it's
space.
full,
Yeah.
yeah, it's heavily programmed.
Okay,
I can
As long as we can.
give
keep
you
the-
that extra
We can
history.
keep the basement dry, that'd be.
so we're gonna put the Williams architectural remediation on the agenda for an upcoming meeting? Or are we gonna do another one of these meetings to discuss it?
That.
Well, we have a meeting on the calendar in 2 weeks from now. It's already scheduled, a study session, our second meeting of the month, July 22nd. That we could continue this conversation. Currently scheduled to have little to no other agenda items.
Perfect.
And then it sounds like our trail plan needs updating. And so-
Yeah, that's that's earmarked to be on.
Okay. Touching on items, then outside those two initial priorities.
Jane asked about the reserve, so you asked to get a report on the reserve and what is committed funds and what's not committed funds.
Right. The next however many years.
It's not on a year to year. It's a year, it's current.
It could be an estimate based off of like where we would end fiscal year 27. So based on what's budgeted for revenues and expenses in the current year and our unaudited beginning balances for the current year. But it's not something that we've, forecast about 10 years necessarily because happy to do that. I think that it would be an estimate at best because it's gonna be based on
That's
property
understandable.
values.
But perhaps would it help if we had like the schedules that
Well, I think like
Brett talked about?
well, your capital, like what you're gonna spend every year over the next 5 years, if you're anticipating spending. Or, bringing buildings up, doing the ADA stuff, that would. A lot of that would come out of the reserve funds, right?
Well, and also I think that it would be net income from our primary, like our 3 operating funds, so like our general rec and museum. So when I've done the forecast in the past, it looks at like a 5-year time frame of what the net income would be. And then from that net income, you could use it for like the routine maintenance projects that we have coming up or funding these capital projects that we're gonna be talking about. So I could bring that.
We have carried forward several $1 million the last
Barbara, you said
five.
those two.
Budget years.
Together, essentially.
Yeah, just, I think it would give us an idea of what is there and what is committed or planned.
Yeah.
And then what does that leave for what we're talking about now?
Yeah.
Enhancing.
Sure.
Would you like me to read the list that I have and see if it matches your list?
Why don't you go ahead? Yeah.
Okay, I thought that's what that meant. So I have down, using the similar map that you received this evening to have more overlays, providing density of population. And potentially, what was the other overlay that you wanted?
Usage of.
Usage, okay.
There was a request for the foundation annual scholarships and the program report. I have a budget breakdown of unrestricted funds. And of course, what Courtney referenced regarding as of 2027 at the end of the year. The trail plan. The Williams remedial list or what was on there. And then I'm not sure if I understood this correctly, but potential revenue or revenue generating opportunities to look at. Was that on the list or was that just something that was mentioned?
I think I was on through.
Okay.
So.
That's all I have. Anything else?
The ADA report.
ADA. You want a summary or would you like something more
One van and park.
detailed? Because what I sent previously was
Yeah.
a summary, just had like the numbers. Do you want them listed or grouped by priority? Grouped by location?
Cause we'll be developing
I
the,
guess the question would be, is there an X amount of money allocated on an annual basis to deal with ADA? If you're planning on doing this
Yeah.
over 10 years,
We
Then-
traditionally budgeted around 200,000, so that's what we programmed into the capital improvement plan for the
Okay.
next 10 years, so. To try and get through those, and then that's using funding from a portion of CUSR. Property tax, portion of that is specific for ADA capital projects, so I think it's around 400 or 500,000 a year. So using roughly half of that towards addressing. those.
so basically then which is 400,000 a year towards the ADA.
So we could utilize all of those funds and get through some of these items that are on the list.
I just want to clarify on discussing the ADA transition plan in greater detail. I think we want to do that maybe in the fall.
Sure. Well, I think that figure that you just came up with goes into what we were just talking about with
Available resources.
yes, yeah. I think I just as we talk through all this, to me, part of why I pushed to do this and appreciate that we're doing it is I think it helps the board and staff be more proactive than reactive. And in the past, we've been reactive at times when maybe we shouldn't have been, or maybe we should have taken into consideration some other things. So as a board member, I think putting a lot of this information together will help make sure that I feel comfortable I'm making educated decisions on projects and items that come forward and continue the good work our district has done. So
An item I put out there for kind of that fits. I guess my thoughts on this visioning process is, and it wasn't in any of the studies, but the prairie farms. Based on the community survey feedback we got back on that. And, maybe just, the price tag of the presentation, the overall of that. Thoughts on prairie farms staying? Is there still desire to move it out there to, the corner? Any thoughts on that?
I think you also have to figure out what you're gonna do if you take it out there. What are you gonna do with the acreage that is going to be abandoned, so to speak? That's right down there.
I must stay where it is.
So the concept presented kind of flip the main location to be at the Zond parcel, but then to open up the existing location into more of a park space, passive park space. I've asked the consultants to reverse that with if we were to keep Prairie Farm where it's at. And then develop the zone parcel as a satellite location, to have primary in the current location. What would that look like? What would their recommendations be? I haven't received it back yet, so.
And which portion of the Prairie Farm are you talking? Because the feedback I
I'm
got,
sorry, say that again.
I said, which portion are you talking about? Because during their presentation, they had Greg's favorite with the ducks, the ponds, and it was like a
Yeah,
three
there's
stage
phases.
process.
Uh-huh.
And as we've learned, everybody hears that highest dollar threshold and they're like, absolutely not, no way. Well, that wasn't even, this was an idea that was thrown about. So when I say which portion are you talking, that's, I think, legitimate. Do we, do nothing? Do we do phase 1, phase 2, fourth phase, whatever it is?
Right.
But again, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but before we start advancing everything else, I think we should address some of these that we currently have a list of that need to be addressed. Which begs the question, well, then why was that acquired to begin with? Well, what are we gonna do with it? And then.
And it begs the question, if you want to do something agricultural related, do we look for other sources of revenue? Do you go talk to people that have agricultural history that might want to donate some money to developing that area into more of a agricultural type thing? I mean.
Yeah.
And get it started.
Additional possibilities.
Yeah.
I think that corner of Zon, I think that is a long term, and maybe let's figure out what we want to do, but based on community feedback.
Preservation.
I think we really, I'm kind of with Barb, I think we have to keep Prairie Farms, and then the question is. We kind of ignoring it, and it becomes one of those projects, it's not listed, but it becomes one of those projects that we need to spend some time on. Put 2 security cameras out there. I mean, just to keep animals safe and things like that, I think, you've got to have. Some,
More than that on my house.
you need to have some immediate,
Sure.
We need
projects.
to put the silo slide back.
That would go a long way.
It would go a long way in this community. And, you talk about that, I think Parkland Way needs to be a discussion. We have $850 million grant for.
Thousand.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
An $850,000 grant, but the last time the board discussed Parkland Way, the consensus was to leave it as it is. It's a path into a park. So again.
Well, the
to me-
grant is just for engineering.
I know, and that's a lot of money in engineering, $850 million, no, $850,000 is a lot of engineering dollars.
We also have a pretty long timeline of when we need to not to deflect, but we have 8 years on spending for it. And then we anticipate with the engineering that having that complete, that engineering will be useful for at least 10 years beyond that in order to have that piece complete in order to apply for future grant opportunities. But without that piece of information, we really can't apply for any other existing grants.
Right, but again, it was the consensus of the board, it's a path into a park. Now, so the discussion needs to be had again, if it's going to be something more than a path into a park.
It is a path for cars into a park.
Yes.
I don't think it is safe for bicycles. I don't think it is safe for pedestrians, and I think that keeping it as a path into a park for cars to get to the parking lot doesn't change. I mean, I think we should probably still have a path alongside it,
Could be.
off shooting, over here from it, whatever. But I think the engineering is still necessary to have that
A
project.
lot of engineering.
Correct, but I do think we need to keep people safe on that stretch, and I don't think that road is our entry to the park. I don't think it is safe, because as we know, we treat it like it's an entry to a park, and that's all it is supposed to be for us. But it is a
It is
thoroughfare.
a main thoroughfare for Parkman College.
So I think, we do need to, we can leave Parkman way as it is and keep treating it the way we have been. But I think we should look at bike, pedestrian pathways alongside it or on that side of Dodds Park and connect them over to the other trail then.
There is a pathway to, from,
There is, yeah,
But not one from Madison too.
yeah,
no, not one from Mass, but then again, who's riding a bike on that? Not many people are riding bikes on Madison Avenue. Just like not many people are riding on Prospect Avenue, but we're gonna have a path on there.
Well, Parkland Way has its own set of situations because it doesn't totally go to all of our parks. That the portion that we own versus the portion that Parkland owns, and we have a temporary IGA. We had an IGA at one point in time, and then Sarah and I researched, and
It's pretty loosey-goosey.
yeah, it's pretty loosey-goosey. And so, things of
I
that.
have all of those things then.
Well, yeah, but they at one time were chipping in on a portion of the maintenance, and somehow that got lost in the shuffle. So we've sort of taken over a good portion of it. And so, if you get too technical with them, we couldn't get to our parks totally. Yet they have obviously entry off of that. So it's a work in progress, as they say, with that. So I agree with the president in that. We'll keep patching it. We'll have a nice set of drawings and stuff to put whatever on. But I don't think we should spend a lot of our reserves dealing with that when we are basically not a great user of that road per se.
connected trail. If we can somehow, you got.
Come up with
You
it.
got hedge, you got the hedge,
Yes.
big long trail
Yep.
around there, just
Exactly.
block and
You
then.
think they're gonna come across Madison Avenue?
I saw some.
It's pretty
ducks
rough.
coming across the
Yeah.
pond.
Yeah.
Somebody's probably complaining because somebody hit one of them.
Okay, Parkland Way, is that,
Set that aside.
okay. Another item,
That's what I mean, like these things. We want to start resolving things instead of these things. How long has this been an issue? That's correct.
40.
So 6 years from now, or 12 years from now, we're gonna be having these same discussions. I'm not specific to that one, but that's part of a broader discussion. So let's start doing this, dealing with it.
Part of the problem is if we do it, have an engineer design it, they would design it to city and state standards, but the city has no intention of ever taking that over. And the state doesn't want it because the city has Madison, the state went with Madison. And it becomes, because it doesn't connect to anything else. So it becomes kind of, it is ours for the foreseeable future to maintain or yeah.
Patch and pray. It's an over $20 million hit
Right.
if you do it correctly.
And
And
There's no doubt.
why they don't want it, they will want us to build it to their standards.
that's right. And they still won't pay. Let's see what it
It's
is.
not an easy, yes.
I think we got a good start.
I was negligent earlier and I probably should have thrown it open to, staff to make any comments as well. I value your opinion, and in fact, I was just telling Jimmy before the meeting, that, yeah, if you read his comments from, I think our last visioning session, yeah, he kind of beat Williams Architects to the punch, so, on a lot of items, so. Does staff have anything to throw in any wisdom, any of their priorities that they'd like to see.
Jump in at the same time.
Stephen, retirement, great job, boom, come on.
Is this a gimme?
You want the Virginia lobby?
Virginia concession.
Redesign, I mean, is that?
You're out the door in about 3 weeks, have at it.
Well, we had an exciting meeting today with the new contractors. We're going to be buying some shows and working with promoters on some of the tours. We're talking about how to kind of revise the current staffing. You're losing an FTE in that building. So how do you make revisions to that staffing to see that all the needs are being met with maybe more events coming in the door? So I think, a refresh on the program in that building is merited. I think you've got some challenges with affordability, both in ticket prices and ticket fees, and then also in the leasing the building, which is always going up because our expenses are always going up. So you've got some pressures there to think about. And has been mentioned by members of the public tonight, you've got a lot of folks facing hardship in this community, and pocketbooks being strained in all directions by inflation. So within that environment, there are a lot of folks who are struggling to make ends meet. How do you have a building that is accessible for the public to make use of for community programming? And at the same time, how do you offer all of these great tours that want to come to Virginia and be presented by the Park District and other entities that function in that building? Those are tough to resolve. So I guess I would say affordability is going to not go away as an issue for us to address. And I think it needs to be a little bit of a guiding light on things like ticketing discussions when we have fees to assess. And, we're making an update right now about allowing people to resell their tickets through our platform that we currently have, which I think is massive because a big driver of expanding ticket prices that you see nationally in this country, a big driver of that is the secondary market. And everyone knows this, that you go to StubHub, you go to any of these different resale platforms, and you see 500% increases on the face value of the ticket price. So how can the Park District try and address that? Well, one thing we might do is look at getting into the resale market ourselves through the venue as a way to try and offer people an opportunity when they can attend a show to resell their own ticket on platform, but cap it at a reasonable upcharge so that they are not charging $500 for a ticket to the ballet. We've seen some you go on there today, I guarantee you that this week's youth theater program, you could buy in the secondary market for a substantial markup. And I think for the Park District to look at that and just say, what practical measure can we do right now that helps address that? Well, us getting into the resale market and capping it at a reasonable amount, thus offering patrons an opportunity to resell a ticket they cannot use, is a great practical measure. I think there are other things that you can look at in terms of offering affordable ticket prices to the patron just through the mix of guarantees that you're entailing. So you look at different artist guarantees. If it's a really tall number, a really big number, that's going to cause you to have a higher ticket price. If you have a mix of guarantees that aren't just all over that one particular level that generates a $80, $90, $100 P1 price level one, I think if you look at having a mix of guarantees, you're going to have a mix of outcomes at the box office on different ticket prices for different shows. So I think there are a few things that you can do in that regard. The building itself is never not going to need a lot of help. It's a 100-year-old building, so it's always going to need restoration. I think the Park District does an incredible job of maintaining that space, just an extraordinary job. And we're going to have another update here in another month with a new projection system. It's just exceptional. There's so many communities, especially across the Midwest, that have that old theater in downtown where that's not true. So I think that deserves a victory lap, but at the same time, it's never going to stop. And that is, I know, challenging for the board and for the public that supports that building. So I think, working with Brett, working with planning, I think the essence of that is thinking in terms of the next 5 years and a building that's already restored. Like, what are the things that are going to be headaches in the next 5 years? And there are things that we already kind of know about. The electrical dimmer room that powers the lighting in that building that was put in 2014. that's going to need to be upgraded, and that's going to be a substantial expense. The fly system is always going to have to be re-upped a little bit every few years. And you look at things like a sound system that was replaced in 2020. Well, at what point is that sound system going to be aging out? So I think 10 years down the line, those kinds of expenses, I think, are key that you've got to get a handle.
How important, you're in the building a lot, how important do you think shift, I think was mentioned in the architect's report, shifting concessions to the east and.
Right, yeah, Sarah mentioned that before. Actually, I should have said that first. I think it's essential. I think, I don't think there's anything wrong with having the concessions right there when people walk in, although it creates some terrible traffic pattern issues. I think the importance of having a secondary unit off the east lobby can't be overstated. I just think that is a pressure release.
Because I don't know how it was stated, but part of Michael Carriger's $1 million gift was that
To that location. Yes. And it's historic in a sense. It wasn't there at the building of that structure, so it wasn't there in 1921, but it was added soon after.
Yeah.
It's part of the historic character of the building. It's also a big pain for everybody who goes to it because it's right there when you walk in the doors and standing in the way of access to the house.
And they had it there so people would see it by them.
They did. They put it there, and that's common in theaters enough to see concessions right when you walk in the door. But I think
it's a huge bottleneck.
It's a huge bottleneck, and that bottleneck spells reduced revenue because people take one look at that line and decide not to get in it, and so you're losing money hand over fist on it. I think you have the secondary station because it allows you to amplify your sales, and we've talked to consultants on this that think $150,000 revenue budget for concessions could be $500,000, and then you talk about undiscovered revenue. That's a key element.
And we would so want to bend from the current
it's addition
concession area.
Yeah, it's a yes and for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, I just want to explain it.
Oh, sure.
Because Mike mentioned.
Yep.
I guess I would just add to what already has been said. I feel like 3 key areas where revenue generation could be met would be considering what Williams Architect has put forward for the Shoal Aquatic Center. I feel like Jimmy could speak to this more, but an extra pool space that would allow for programmable space for more swim lessons, more lap lanes, etc. There's lots of opportunity there. And it always is the most popular pool in the 2 communities or even in the county, large in part due to the lazy river. Everyone loves the lazy river, and you always have to consider your most popular facility and what things you can do to continue to enhance it and make it attractive. And I think that would be a good piece there. You talked about Prairie Farm. I feel like one of the phases that we should take a hard look at the Zahn parcel in particular is a programmable space there. The thoughts around the barn being possibly a wedding venue or a space that we can do rentals there would be something that would be of interest and important.
One of the problems I see with rental stores as a venue space is a lot of people like to do them on the weekends and have staff that would be there on Saturdays and Sundays to facilitate people renting.
Of course, so something to consider for sure.
Yeah.
Maybe not necessarily a popular opinion in the past, especially with what our neighbors to the north have done, but 1 or 2 AstroTurf spaces at Dodds go a long way in the community in a variety of ways, and I'll just leave it at that. Just in general, I feel like you're aware that the board needs to take a hard look at the Douglas Community Center. What should happen there? And that then plays into also an access, as you'd referenced, trail connectivity and trails is always the #1 thing that you see in surveys. But as Commissioner Solon referenced earlier, O'Malley's Alley, you could make a small connection through Centennial Park to the Roby Trail. And you could go then from Dodds Park all the way down to Jupiter's. And we could make a bunch of other smaller connections around the community to our parks and to other great things that way that offer safe opportunities for people to use bikes and walk, etc. So those are the kind of things that I had shared with Sarah previously that floated to the top. Thank you for letting me share that as well.
Thank you. Is everyone happy with where we're standing right now? Or at least content, if not happy? Is this,
We've got a lot more work to do and to have a general framework of where we want to go, what we want to do.
is there enough direction from this discussion for you and staff to?
I think but you know, to continue the conversation in 2 weeks and to prep some things
I
and
think there are loose ends. I think there are more things to discuss, obviously.
yeah, certainly.
The building we're sitting in, but
In my opinion, I don't think we can plan for the next 5-10 years in 2 meetings.
so perhaps that's a good.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess I need to get back to an agenda. If we are done with our discussion, comments from the commissioners, Mr. Hayes.
I have none.
No, sure. Ms. Sullivan. That's good. Yeah. I'm all talked out as well. I appreciate the participation and I will entertain a motion to adjourn, correct?
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much.